Family, have you ever thought about what it is to be in harmony with God? Many times we don't get a chance to think about it at all because we're so busy trying to be in harmony with everything else, literally everything else, with our local government, with our state government, with our federal government, with the office, with the traffic. We're trying to be in harmony with everything but God. Now, the Hebrew word tov means good, but it also means to be in harmony with God. Let me tell you a little story. Yesterday, as we celebrated my mother's 80th birthday, my dear cousin, who was my best friend when we were kids, she talked about how she was so excited when we turned 50 because that meant we could get senior citizen discounts. I said, yeah, I remember that. But when you started going to the stores and you would say, okay, I would like to get my senior citizens discount, you would give your ID. All of a sudden, well, they moved the age to 52. Really? So you go on, you get to 52, and they've moved it to 55. And by the time you get there, they've moved it all the way to 60. Think about that. She said she stopped asking for them at all. She had us really laughing. It was very comical the way she took. She said, girl, I was like, I'm thinking I'm getting a 10% discount and get nothing. And she said one day she was checking out and this man said, well, would you like your senior citizen discount? She says, you talking to me? You talking to me? And he was like, yeah. And she said for the first time, someone was asking her if she wanted the discount. And what was funny was she hadn't touched up her gray hair or anything. And she got to the car and looked in the mirror and said, no wonder. But think about it. She continued to try to be in harmony with a system that was promising her something and never delivering. Guess what? All of God's promises are sure. They're a sure thing. But you see, if you get caught up even in the systems of religion, you will miss God. You will miss God. Be in harmony with God. You can't be in harmony with these systems because what do? They move the goalpost every time. I can retire at 60. Well, no, they moved it to 62. Oh, it went to 65 too. By the way, we're going to up the retirement age to 70 to 73. So the one person you need to be in harmony with is God, period. God does not disappoint. Even sometimes when we think we have been disappointed, God was working everything out to our good, not to the good of the system we live in or the systems. It's hard for us sometimes to realize that pseudo feeling of being in harmony that we have many times is just with a system that's waiting for us to miss something or it's about to change. That has happened, I know, in my community many times. When we get access to something, they change it. Access to Medicare, Medicaid, they change it. So if you're in harmony with God, and many times my community is in harmony with God, we can get off on the sidelines sometimes and be in harmony with this or that. Many times what will get us is we'll be in harmony with religion in many ways. People that are very charismatic, and sometimes we'll get thrown off our game because they're charismatic. And in America, African Americans have been known to go to church because that was the only place you had authority and you had some peace. Unless they decided, those systems around you decided that it didn't matter that you were worshiping, they were going to disrupt your peace. So as we live in that good, let's live in that good for a minute, just that goodness, that harmony with the Creator. The Creator never misses a beat. So when I got back home after driving to North Carolina, I spent most of my time yesterday driving. We noticed that it had rained here. and the sky was so beautiful. But God's in harmony with nature. The sunrise is beautiful this morning. It started out with fog. God is just in sync, in harmony, not missing a beat, not missing a key change, any of those things. See, if you get in sync with God and begin to flow with God and not flow with these systems that disappoint, they disappoint. You only have to keep living to know that they disappoint. And then sometimes the system tries to surprise you like it did my cousin. Oh, you get a discount. Oh, you get included. You get to be part of our team, only to turn around and tell you, oh, you thought you were one of us. You really did. You'll have to wait for that. See, I love that God doesn't disappoint. I know as a pastor, many people have told me they were disappointed, that they felt like God had disappointed them. But when they really begin to parse things out and look at where they were really trusting and banking on some things, it wasn't God they were banking on. They were banking on God to make a system work for them that wasn't designed to work for them. And God said, I have nothing to do with that. So sometimes if you just stay in harmony with God, stay there, stay in harmony with God, irregardless of what these fallen systems do or don't do for you or to you. Get into that harmony where you're flowing with God. And even when you go through trouble, you will ease on through. Even when you have the good times, they'll be so much sweeter because you know that God gave it to you. Not some system that's waiting to say, oh, you almost had it. And that's how you feel. Oh, you almost had it. You almost had the keys to that house. You almost had this or that. Your child almost had that scholarship, when they know they never intended for you to ever have a boot or a strap. See, with God, when you're in harmony with God, everything is in place. I have found being in harmony with God, even in some of the places where I have been most disappointed, that light that I'm in harmony with and love that I'm in harmony with, it even makes disappointment, wounds, and hurt line up with the higher heavens. And sometimes God leaves those wounds for you to look and say, yeah, I see what God brought me through. And sometimes those wounds may seem so long. It's like somebody just grabbed and just cut. That's the system and the ways of being of this realm. To be in harmony with the Creator, you must understand the ways of being of the Creator. I know people are going to say, well, how do you do that, Charlotte, Pastor Caldwell? You learn to, as I told you a week ago, Shema, listen. Not listen to all the systems. Listen to the higher heavens. Now, I'm not telling you to be ignorant in this realm, by no means. You have to have knowledge because we perish for the lack of knowledge. But the main knowledge that you need is the knowledge of the Creator. You will never go wrong knowing all that you need to know about the Creator. But as we were in harmony yesterday as a family, celebrating 80 years of life, so many conversations went on, and many brought up what's going on currently in the country. And my family, boy, when I tell you they're going to get down and deep into the weeds. My cousin mentioned, we started talking about that Isaiah 40, 30, and 31. But she began to talk about, she is a godly woman, to talk about how in that text, before you get to chapter 40, how in Habakkuk, that's a book in Old Testament, go read it. All the things God said that God was setting up, because the people of God had tried to be so creative on if we do this or do that. Because see, sometimes knowing the law, knowing those things don't save you when you don't have pure intentions. As they say, how you going to win when you ain't right within? They were not right within. And God said, no, you guys playing in my face. You acting like you like me, you love me, and you don't. You just playing in my face. And she talked about how, I'm trying to remember exactly how she put it. It was brilliant. I said, oh my goodness, how God began to design around them their ability to bring about their own destruction. I said, girl, we started to get an offering plate and give her an offering. I'm just saying. She talked about in that time, because they made all the treaties with governments and paid money to this, things that they were told not to do. The only harmony they needed to be in was the one with God, keeping promises to God. But the thing is, they were not keeping anything that they had told God they would do, but they expected God to keep every promise. But the promise they didn't expect was the one of correction. And they slowly, in that system, they kept creating, thinking, I'll go over here and make an offering. We'll, pacify God. Let's give God a pacifier. And then we can go over here and do this. And if we feel a little kind of way, we'll go back over and give God another pacifier. God said, I got you. You think you're playing with me. So as they're constructing all these systems and ways of being to do this and not act in harmony with God, they're setting up their own destruction. And they didn't even realize it. God would send in the prophets to tell them, oh, I'm going to get you. I don't know about you, but when I was little, every now and then you would do something and I could look and my mama would say, yeah, I'm going to get you. And I used to be so afraid. And it wasn't mean. It wasn't cruel. She was just like, I told you not to do that and you did it. You are fully aware that you are not supposed to do that, and you did it anyway. You just walked right on over there and did it in my face. I'm going to get you. And you could go days. And you sitting there like, she's going to get me. She's going to get me. Something would come up. I remember something very important came up that I wanted to do. I really, really wanted to do it. And I guess all of a sudden she said, I'm going to get her. And she said, no, you're not going to be able to participate in that. And I was like, why? Everyone's expecting me to. You're not going to do that. Do you remember when I had given you instructions not to do this and you did it anyway? And I said I was going to get you. This is it. She was very intentional and she knew she was removing something. And I was just devastated. I was embarrassed. People were like, Miss Lucille's not going to let you. No, I can't go. I can't do that. But we were depending on you. I was depending on me being there too, but she said no. And then after that, we had a good conversation. She said, just like you intentionally just walked contrary to what I told you to do. How does it feel that I'm now walking contrary to what it is you wanted to do? We spent probably a good hour or so. She actually conversed with me and said, Charlotte, you're getting older. The decisions you make are important because as you get older and you leave my house, guess what you have to get? You have to get your own anointing. You have to get your own relationship with God. You can't keep living on mine. And I will tell you right now, the young people, they're getting their own relationship with God. They didn't do it through a church system. They didn't do it through a preacher, through some type of glorified ritual. They are really having a relationship with God. They're in harmony with God. And they are the change agent on the scene right now. What is it? The millennials, the X, the Gen X, they're the change. See, we thought it was going to be us. But we were so busy being in harmony with the system. If we get all this education, if we do all these things and we're in harmony, we will get the reward. The reward that really counts only comes from God. So here we are. And those who keep moving the goalposts, moving it, they have been circling and doing things. And we're in that place where we're watching. And God is saying, you remember over in Habakkuk and Isaiah and all those things, you're setting up your own demise. You don't even realize it. You don't realize that God has given you enough rope to do that thing you want to do to us. And that's what my cousin mentioned. Because once it was all set up, God was like, yeah, I let you do this. And don't ever forget, this correction came directly from me, which is why we were told to watch. So that we would know the hand of God has not changed. God wouldn't have anyone to perish at all. But God is a parent. God gave life to all of us. God will correct all of us. The correction that came in my community was relax yourself. Sit down. Everyone that you're helping and you're trying to love on don't love you. What do you do when they don't love you? You make sure you're in harmony with God, the one who has always loved you with an everlasting love. You stay there because the systems will disappoint. People will disappoint. But come on back into the family and sit down with the family and hear the stories of righteousness and truth. Tov, good, and in harmony with God. Not just a system that's foundation is set on being against you. So watching the space and understanding from my cousin's revelation that this is a setup. But as my grandmother would say, sometimes the lesson you get is the one that comes from yourself and your own bad deeds and ugly thoughts and ways of being. God has allowed them the space to set everything in motion. Doggone it.